because the question is why this figure and nobody else? Like, there's something about this story that still resonates today with millions of people, something that we're in which this contingent gristle of reality becomes the incarnation of eternal truth, which is what incarnation means, the God-man. This is, by the way, also what a symptom is. This is brilliant. So a symptom is an event in your body that is contingent, like a bad back, a headache, you grind your teeth, you get anxious about going out, you don't like to answer your phone, whatever it is.
Just described me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just did the checklist. And it's these events that actually articulate the truth of who you are. Now, when we encounter a symptom, we often think that a symptom is a problem, i.e. it's like a cancer you can cut out of your body. That's not me. Right, you burst into tears for no reason in the car when you're listening to some advert. You go, oh, that's not me. That's weird. That's where you distance yourself. But actually, the idea is, no, that contingent explosion is actually more true. It's the most you. That's why it's called a parapraxis, because a paramilitary is like a military that's outside the authority of the government. So it's a paramilitary. A parapraxis is a practice that is outside the authority of your consciousness. So it's something you do without realizing it. It's an explosion that you go, that's not me. And an analyst is always looking for your parapraxis or slips of the tongue. It's whenever you're talking about, like whenever a child puts their hand up and says mummy instead of teacher or whatever, you go like, whenever you make a mistake, the mistake is what speaks the truth. And so an analyst isn't listening to what you're saying, because what you're saying is your conscious control. They're looking for the little mistakes. So, for example, I recently was going for coffee. My housemate said, let's go for coffee. And he mentioned this place called Coffee Commissary. I think it's coffee, yeah. And I looked it up. It's very good coffee. And I looked it up. But the place was 45 minutes away from where we lived. And I'm like, okay, why am I going here? But I drove all the way there. It's ridiculous. Like, what is going on? So I went there and I was like, oh, my goodness. And then I got in. And I usually don't order food in a coffee shop, but I ordered all this food and this coffee. And as soon as I'd ordered it, I suddenly thought, I wonder if there's a coffee commissary that's closer to where we live. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there's one 5 minutes away from me.
Of course. I was about to say, I'm like, I think you said you're downtown, and I think there's one.
Yeah, that's right. There's one a lot closer, yeah. So then what I have to do is I go, instead of thinking, oh, that's a contingent mistake, I went, okay, why is it that I remembered at the very moment that I was pot committed to staying in a coffee shop, I'd bought all this stuff. So I was like, well, do I not want to see my friend? Is there something that's happening that makes me not want to see him? And then I thought about it, I went, yes, actually, there is something, an underlying issue we need to talk about. And so what I realized is this contingent thing about me going to the wrong coffee shop was actually the truth, which is I wanted to avoid seeing him. So what I have to do is I have to listen to the mistakes that I make. And sometimes they actually reveal the truth that I cannot reveal to myself. So you're saying
he was at the one 5 minutes away and you were driven 45 minutes.
And
you made the choice when you looked up and found 45 minutes away, you didn't text him and say, oh, is it 45 minutes away?
Exactly.
And you didn't look up for any other option. You just went.
I just went. And only as soon as I was committed did it make sense. Or a friend of mine, he went through a divorce and he has 3 kids, and he would go home every Thursday to read to his kids. And he forgot one week, very stressed at work, so much going on, forgot the day. And he felt really bad about this. Then a week later, he forgot again. And then a week later, he forgot again. And we were talking, and his ex said to him, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make your kids hate you? And as we talked, he realized, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make my kids hate me, because he so hated himself. But he wasn't confronting that. He was out partying, he was drinking, he was working. He was avoiding confronting his own feelings. And so what he was doing was he was trying to make his children feel about him the way he felt about himself.
And creating a punishment for himself without having to put in the work of facing what he didn't like, what he hated about himself.
Exactly. And the reason why I could see it, and anyone could see it really, is because forgetfulness is one thing. I forget things. But you don't forget your kids. Like he never forgets to meet me. He never forgets a job meeting, but he forgets the most important people in his life. As soon as you that's when you start to see that the difference between forgetting, because you're just, forgetful. Like if you keep forgetting where your keys are when you're going to visit your mum, right? You go like, Well, maybe you don't want to see your mum, right? So you have to. It's funny. It's like you have to be a detective to your own life. What a detective does, like if you like Columbo, he's my favorite. A detective goes into a crime scene, and the criminal has made everything look the way they want it to look, and all the police are fooled by it, right? So there's one Columbo episode. It was similar to this. They go into this house. This guy's died. It was smoke inhalation, right? The house was on fire. And everyone goes, oh, he's a smoker. He smokes 40 a day. Look, there's the cigarettes. Fell on the sofa. That's what happened. And then Columbo, he walks in within 30 seconds, just walks over to one cigarette and looks at it. He says, you see that on the end of the cigarette? Go, there's nothing there. Exactly. He says, when you smoke a cigarette, you suck. And when you suck in, you create a stain of tar on the filter. There's no tar on the filter. He says, therefore, this cigarette's been lit but not smoked. Someone's been here and has made it look as who's not a smoker, who's made it look like this guy smoked and killed himself, right? So what Columbo is doing is he's looking for the one thing that's out of place. Like, what's the one thing that's out of place in your life? That's the symptom. And he's going, that's the truth. That is the truth. So a symptom is an incarnation. It's where a contingent event suddenly takes on the truth of who you are. And that's what Hegel, the philosopher, calls a spirit as a bone, where he says the spirit as a bone means the bone is just this rock and spirit is your subjectivity. Spirit as a bone means in the rock of your symptom, there you are. If I want to know who you are, Freud once said it. He said, if you really look at somebody, you would think that they could not lie, because even if they deceive you with their mouth, they will tell the truth through the tapping of their finger. They'll tell the truth through the little gestures in their eyes, right? In other words, that we are always speaking the truth. Not with our mouths, obviously, not consciously, but we're always speaking the truth. And the symptom is the sight of truth.
So what does it mean if my car's always disgusting?
Well, there you go. That's it. Yeah, that's an interesting one. Let's see.
Yeah, same.